ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ವಾಸುದೇವಾಯ. ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ವಾಸುದೇವಾಯ. ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ವಾಸುದೇವಾಯ. ನಾರಾಯಣಂ ನಮಸ್ಕೃತ್ಯಂ ನರಂ ಚೈವ ನರೋತ್ತಮಂ ದೇವಿಂ ಸರಸ್ವತಿಂ ವ್ಯಾಸಂ ತತೋ ಜಯಮುದೀರಯೇತ್. ನಷ್ಟಪ್ರಾಯೇಷು ಅಭದ್ರೇಷು ನಿತ್ಯಂ ಭಾಗವತ ಸೇವಯ ಭಗವತೆ ಉತ್ತಮ ಶ್ಲೋಕೆ ಭಕ್ತಿರ್ಭವತಿ ನೈಷ್ಟಕಿ. ಮೂಕಂ ಕರೋತಿ ವಾಚಾಲಂ ಪಂಗುಂ ಲಂಘಯತೆ ಗಿರಿಂ ಯತ್ಕೃಪಾತಮಹಂ ವಂದೇ ಶ್ರೀಗುರು ದೀನತಾರಿಣಂ ಚೈತನ್ಯಮೀಶ್ವರಂ. ಓಂ ಅಜ್ಞಾನತಿಮಿರಾಂಧಸ್ಯ ಜ್ಞಾನಾಂಜನಶಲಾಕಯ ಚಕ್ಷುರುನ್ಮಿಲಿತಮೇನ ತಸ್ಮೈ ಶ್ರೀಗುರುವೇ ನಮಃ. ನಮೋ ವಿಷ್ಣುಪಾದಾಯ ಕೃಷ್ಣಪೃಷ್ಠಾಯ ಭೂತಲೆ ಶ್ರೀಮತೆ ಭಕ್ತಿವೇದಾಂತ ಸ್ವಾಮಿತಿ ನಾಮಿನೆ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರಸ್ವತೆ ದೇವೆ ಗೌರವಾಣಿ ಪ್ರಚಾರಿಣೆ ನಿರ್ವಿಶೇಷ ಶೂನ್ಯವಾದಿ ಪಾಶ್ಚಾತ್ಯ ದೇಶತಾರಿಣೆ. ಜಯ ಶ್ರೀ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಚೈತನ್ಯ ಪ್ರಭು ನಿತ್ಯಾನಂದ ಶ್ರೀ ಅದ್ವೈತ ಗದಾಧರ ಶಿವಾಸದಿ ಗೌರ ಭಕ್ತ ವೃಂದ. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ 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 ಹರೇ ಹರೇ, ಹರೇ ರಾಮ 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 ಹರೇ ಹರೇ. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ. So welcome for Bhagavatam discussion. So sloka 38 now today.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Who is going to read?
It's allocated to me, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 38. Tatha abetya ashramam balo gale sarpakalevaram pitaram vikshya dukkha artaha muktakanto rurodaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, when the boy returned to the hermitage, he saw a snake on his father's shoulder, and out of his grief, he cried very loudly. Purport: the boy was not happy because he committed a great mistake, and he wanted to be relieved of the burden on his heart by crying. So after entering the hermitage and seeing his father in that condition, he cried loudly so that he might be relieved, but it was too late. The father regretted the whole incident.
Hare Krishna. So we know the background. The Shringi cursed Parishit Maharaj to die within 7 days by bite of a snake bird. Now after that he comes into the ashram, hermitage. While seeing this, he started crying loud. Prabhupada says boy was not happy because he's committed a great mistake. So he realized he made a mistake, but at the same time he was expressing the grief because father's in that condition with the dead snake on his neck. So he cried out to relieve his anger or relieve his sorrow. Okay, next one. 39. Whom is allocated? 39.
Prabhuji, myself.
39 also. Okay.
Text 39.
Yeah.
Sava angiraso brahmam strutva sudha vilapanam unmilya shankei netre drishtva kamse mrudha uragam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.
O Brahmanas, the Rishi, who was born in the family of Angira Muni, hearing his son crying, gradually opened his eyes and saw the dead snake around his neck. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So Shamika Rishi, now hearing the sound of crying his son, opened his eyes. He saw a dead snake on his neck, and he just threw it out. So he removed it. So next sloka we'll see what happens. 40. I think Shri Mataji is not there. Huh? Somebody else can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1840 Vishrija tam cha prapacha vatsakasmaddirodisi kenavate pakritam iti uktana nyandyat. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. He threw the dead snake aside and asked his son why he was crying, whether anyone had done him harm. On hearing this, the son explained to him what had happened. Purport: the father did not take the dead snake on his neck very seriously. He simply threw it away. Actually, there was nothing seriously wrong in Maharaja Parikshit's act, but the foolish son took it very seriously, and being influenced by Kali, he cursed the king, and thus ended a chapter of happy history. So here it is being told that for the Shamika Rishi, he didn't consider it a big thing. He just threw the that snake away, and he found his son was crying. So he asked him, what has happened? Why are you crying?" So then the son tells that he was very angry that Maharaja Parikshit, the king, had done this, and he cursed the person who had put the snake around his father's neck to die within 7 days. So then, by this thing, what he had done is such a just ruler who was a very good Kshatriya who was protective, and in his kingdom, all dharma was happening and everything righteousness was happening. Such a king's life he brought to an abrupt end by his curse. So he did not realize that he had brought an end to a very good age, and from now onwards, after his death, Kali Yuga will start. So his foolish act of his son had caused this. This is what I understood, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So, what is the lesson we can learn from this?
That we should not get, without knowing the proper reason and anything, we should not get extremely angry, because in the moment of anger we should not take any decision or take any action, because we see many times because of anger people do mistakes, like that mongoose story is also there. When one lady sees a mongoose having blood in its mouth, she thinks that a mongoose has killed her child, and she drops a bucket on the mongoose's thing, and the mongoose dies, because she does not think that what happened and thing. When she goes ahead, she realizes that the mongoose had actually saved her child, and it had killed a snake. So in the moment of anger and this thing, just without thinking, she does this. Then she repents, but what is the use? She has the mongoose would have died, she feels bad. So without thinking, even sometimes what we see will not be actually correct, because she saw that the mongoose had blood in her in its mouth, and she thought it has killed the son. So sometimes even whatever see, without finding out the actual reason, cause and all, we should not come to a conclusion.
Yeah. The Kannada, there is a proverb saying, Kannare Kandaru Paramarshisinudu. So, yeah, we have to be very, very careful before taking action. Okay, next one, 41. I think Mariappan Prabhu, it was allocated to you.
Yes, Prabhu, it was allocated to Mariappan Prabhu. He is there,
Yeah.
but
I can.
he's not. I think he's in some other
Yeah. I can.
activity.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. I can read, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji, please read. Or should I read the shloka, or will you read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you can read the sloka, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.18.14. Nishamya saptam atad aram narendram sabrahmano nathamajam abhyanadat ahobatamoho mahad adyati kritam alipyasi droho ururdhamo dritah. Please read.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The father, translation, the father heard from his son that the king had been cursed, although he should never have been condemned, for he was the best amongst all the human beings. The rishi did not congratulate his son, but on the contrary, began to repent, saying, Alas, what a great sinful act was performed by my son. He was awarded heavy punishment for an insignificant offense. Purport: the king is the best of all human beings. He is the representative of God, and he is never to be condemned for any of his actions. In other words, the king can do no wrong. The king may order hanging of a culprit son of a Brahmana, but he does not become sinful for killing a Brahmana. Even if there is something wrong with the king, he is never to be condemned. A medical practitioner may kill a patient by mistake treatment, but such a killer is never condemned to death. So, what to speak of a good and pious king like Maharaja Parikshit? In the Vedic way of life, the king is trained to become a Rajarishi or a great saint. Although he is ruling as king, he is the king only by whose good government the citizens can live peacefully and without any fear. The subjects would respect them as if they were the Lord. That is the instruction of Vedas. The king is called Narendra, or the best amongst the human beings. How then could a king like Maharaja Parikshit be condemned by an inexperienced, puffed up son of a Brahmana, even though he had attained the powers of a qualified Brahmana? Since Samiksha Rishi was an experienced good Brahmana, he did not approve of the actions of his condemned son. He began to lament for all that his son had done. The king was beyond the jurisdiction of a curses as a general rule, and what to speak of a good king like Maharaja Parikshit? The offense of the king was most insignificant, and his being condemned to death was certainly a very great sin for Shringi. Therefore, Rishi Samika regretted the whole incident. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So now the Shamika Rishi opened his eyes. He started lamenting, why did my son do this kind of a heinous act? So he actually did not congratulated Shringi, saying, "Oh, you've done a good job. You come and punished the king." No, instead of that, he said, "You have done such a sinful act. You are punished a king for a very very insignificant offense. Even if you consider offense is a very very insignificant, because king as a rule is beyond all the rules, because he is the authority of the rules. He himself is the authority of the rules. How can the rule cover him? Like Prabhupada says, like Krishna is the lawmaker, and the law doesn't bind him. Similarly, any king is a representative of the God. Of course, nowadays we cannot imitate this because we cannot find such good quality of kings now. But kings like Parishit, they are that level. So Prabhupada says the king is a representative of the God, and they are like Rajarishis, Janaka Maharishi, Yudhishthira Maharaj. They are all Rajarishis. They are just not Rajas, Rishis. Rishis means they understood the scriptures so well. They practice and they rule as per the scriptures. They don't do anything of their whimsically. Such a great personality. And he's also called Narendra, means the best amongst the human beings, because that's the reason he has been put into that throne. So, but here the Shramika Rishi's son, Shringi, who was Prabhupada many times he says inexperienced, puffed up Brahmana son. He is not qualified, he is elite, in kind of less intelligent. The Brahmana boy, because of him, the incident happened. Of course, in other way we can consider this is a kind of a will of the Lord. The Lord wanted Parishit Maharaj to go back and ask Sukadeva Goswami the questions and the whole Bhagavatam to unfold from here. So the purpose is that. But in this context, the Shringi was at fault. So Prabhupada also says since Samika Rishi was an inexperienced Shamika Rishi was experienced good Brahmana, he did not approve the actions of his son. Instead of that, he started lamenting. And the offense of the king was most insignificant, and the being condemned by death was certainly a very great sin for Shringi. So again, before punishing, we should understand what happened and ask relevant question, then only come to the conclusion. Do not come to the conclusion without complete information. Okay, next 42.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. 42 is allocated to me. Does anyone else want to read? Varsha Mataji, will you read? Varsha Mataji? Okay, I'll only read.
Yes, Mataji, I
Hare
was
Krishna.
unable to
Srila
unmute.
Prabhu- Okay.
Sorry.
I will read no Mataji. 42?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Navai narbhir devam prakhyam samatum arhasa avipakva buddhe yat tejasa durvisahane gupta vidanti bhadranya akuto bhaya praja. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Translation. Oh my boy, your intelligence is immature, and therefore you have no knowledge that the king who is the best amongst human beings is as good as the personality of Godhead. He is never to be placed on an equal footing with common men. The citizen of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable prowess. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
there's no purport here. So the Shamika Rishi is saying that your intelligence is immature, therefore you have no knowledge of king, the best amongst human beings, not just is like Supreme Personality Godhead. Of course, with the purpose says that king is a representative of the God, and Guru is also a representative of the God. So Prabhupada many places says that we should worship Guru like a representative God or equivalent to God. So at the same time, Guru doesn't consider himself as a God, but we should worship that mode. Similarly, the king has to be taken that responsibility, and king should be respected like that. So, but here says citizens of the state live prosperity, being protected by the unsurpassable prowess of the king. So, king as a Kshatriya, he is there to protect the citizens. That's why the citizens can live peacefully. Now, Shamika Rishi himself is saying that because of the king's protection, he is able to do his japa and his meditation without any disturbance. Otherwise, so many demons will be disturbing, so many animals will be disturbing, so many enemies will be disturbing. So they will not be able to do their sadhana properly. So now, instead of that thanking that king, the Shamika Rishi's son, Shringi, has cursed him. Okay, next 43.
Shankar Prabhu,
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Reading from Srimad
Okay,
Bhagavatam.
should I read this? Yeah.
I will read Mataji. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam
Yeah. Shall I read the
1.18.
shloka?
Am I audible?
Please go ahead. Yes, please read.
Hare Krishna. Alakshyamanena naradeva namne rata angapanao ayam angaloka tadahi saura prachurah vinakshyanti arakshyamanah aravin pruntavat kshana. Hare Krishna. Reading translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
My dear boy, the Lord who reads the wheel of a chariot is represented by the monarchical regime. And when this regime is abolished, the whole world becomes becomes filled with thieves, who then at once vanquished the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs. Purport: according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the monarchical regime represents the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. The king is said to be the representative of the absolute personality of Godhead because he is trained to acquire the qualities of God to protect the living beings. The battle of Kurukshetra was planned by the Lord to establish the real representative of the Lord, Maharaja Yudhishthira. An ideal king, thoroughly trained by culture and devotional service with a martial spirit, makes a perfect king. Such a personal monarchy is far better than the so called democracy of no training and responsibility. The thieves and rogues of a modern democracy seek election by misrepresentation of votes, and the successful rogues and thieves devour the mass of population. One trained monarch is far better than hundreds of useless ministerial rogues, and it is hinted herein that by abolition of monarchical regime like that of Maharaja Parikshit, the mass of people become open to many attacks of the age of Kali. They are never happy in an overly advertised form of democracy. The result of such a kingless administration is described in the following verses.
Hare
Hare
Krishna. So, father started talking, my dear boy, Lord who carries the wheel of chariot is represented by the monarchical regime. So basically, Shamika Rishi is saying that Parishit Maharaj is representative of Krishna. Even otherwise also is relative also, because Arjuna is their brother-in-law and Arjuna's grandson is Parishit Maharaj. So Pandava was very close, but that way also. Plus he is a great devotee of the Lord. So he says, because of that such a regime, whole the whole world is able to peacefully do it. Otherwise, you will be filled with the thieves and then vanquish the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs. So if the thieves are not killed, they will unnecessarily create a problem for the sages and sannyasis who perform the rituals. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, the monarchical regime represents the Supreme Lord. So when you say monarchical regimes, again, properly trained. So here, people should not misunderstand that just because somebody is born in the kingly family, he should become king. No. So there, the proper training is required, and it's given on those days. Those days, the kings will train their children so nicely and they will qualified. Then only they will get made kings. Otherwise, they may not. So that's the most important things. Today also, the Kshatriyas should be trained to rule the country. Similarly, the Brahmana should be trained. The Vaishya should be trained. Then only the proper administration can be run. But today what happens because of the popular vote? Thieves, rogues, or the modern criminals, they contest election and they win and they become ministers, chief minister, prime minister. That's what happening today because there is no proper training. The Kshatriyas have no training, Brahmanas no training. Everything is based on a modern so-called education, which teaches the basics, some of the language, some maths. That's it. There is no moral values. There is no the way of life being taught. So this is where the real problem is that today the whole world is getting into, especially the Sanatana Dharma, getting into that direction because there is no proper training. There's no proper education. So this democracy, Prabhupada says, is demon crazy. It's all these demons are together, joined together. The ruling party or opposition party, both are equally good demons or worst rulers. So that's why we should be very careful in voting also. Of course, sometimes people may say that we don't find anyone for that matter. Everybody is equally bad. So another point is that we as a devotees we should encourage young boys with the proper education take up the Kshatriya rule, like contest election and being the ruler or become IAS, IPS, so that they can take the helm of the affairs of the government. For that, proper training has to be given. Prabhupada then returned to Indira Gandhi in, I think, 1970s or somewhere. He returned to Indira Gandhi that all MPs of the nation should be initiated and properly trained. That situation, if it comes, all 540 MPs are all initiated by, in Vaishnava Sampradaya and are properly trained in their administration purpose. So their whole world today, what dream of your, thinking about Ramarajya will become true when that happens, because everybody will be conscious of Krishna and everybody will be conscious of justice and the national interest and interest of the people. Today, very rarely people find, working for interest of the people. They all work for their own interest. Okay, we'll read one more sloka. Yeah, somebody can read this. Anyone? Please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'll read.
Yeah.
तदाद्यना पापम् उपैते अनन्वयं यान्नस्तानतस्य वसोर्विलोपक्त परास्परं घ्रान्ति सप्तन्ति वृश्चते पशुना स्त्रियो रथं पुरु दास्वयो जनाः. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: due to the termination of the monarchical regime and the plundered of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. Purport: the word we is very significant in this verse. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called democrats who are generally plundered of the wealth of the state subjects. The so-called democrats capture the administrative machine without assuming responsibility for the prosperous condition of the citizens. Everyone captures the post for personal gratification, and thus instead of one king, a number of irresponsible kings grow up to tax the citizens. It is foretold herein that in the absence of good monarchical government, everyone will be the cause of disturbance for other plundered riches, animals, women, etc. Hare Krishna.
Vishwamika Rishi is actually accepting there's a mistake, and he's saying that the monarchical regime and the plundering of the people of wealth by rogues and thieves will happen. When this termination or monarchical kings or trained kings are not there, all the rogue thieves, they will plunder the wealth, women, and this whole society will be disturbed. This is exactly happening today, and it will happen more because there's no proper rule. The so-called rogues or so-called thieves, they themselves get elected, they become the ruler, and they start grabbing the wealth of the people and in the form of tax on the corruption and start abusing against women. The lot of the what do you call the atrocities against women is going on. So that is why Prabhupada is saying that the so-called Democrats, they in the name of Democrats, they are all together, whether ruling or opposition, they are all together. For the sake of making money or for the sake of committing crime, they are all together. So who is going to oppose them? They are all fight or enjoy together. It's like the group of thieves plunder and the night they share equally. This exactly happens today. So maybe I'm not saying that everybody is bad, but it could be some are good or some are better. But the majority is going that direction. So that's why we as a practicing devotees have to do a few things. One, wherever possible, educate the so-called the rulers. Give them some books, give them Bhagavad Gita, ask them to chant the holy name. At least some sukriti comes by them. Give them some education. Also, give education to children, the future children, the future generation of the country, give them right direction so that they can also become good citizens and good ruler of the country. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here. Devotees can share their thoughts, comments if you. Asha Mata, do you want to start?
Krishna Prabhuji, nothing.
Hare Krishna. Oh,
Nothing much, Prabhuji. Hare
sure.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Who else? Mariappan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
It is very, very surprising because all these texts are have been written 50, 60 years back. Not 50, 60, I think perhaps it is more, still more back.
Written 5,000 years. Prabhupada written purport maybe 70s.
And it's all representing the present plight, exactly what is this thing is in such a long back years they have predicted and they have written. It's astonishing, and whatever they have told in the name of democracy, the leaders will emerge as rogues and looters. That is what is happening. And now the only solution is only sharing Krishna consciousness among all the MPs and MLAs. Thereby, establishment of Ramarajya is possible, they say. And this should be seriously viewed by the present politicians, present government, present opponent leaders, everybody who is responsible. Among above all, the organizations like ISKCON and the devotees have great responsibility of sharing this precious Krishna consciousness among all fellow human beings, including the ruling leaders. And whatever the possible effort we must initiate, I sincerely feel we must initiate from the home. It should start, and it should gradually reach every human being in the society, Prabhuji. That much I realize. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Vidya Prabhu Mataji.
ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ.
Hare Krishna.
ಒಂದು ಇವತ್ತಿದು ಸಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿರುವಾಗ ಯಾವುದು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೋಬಾರ್ದು, ಅದು ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿ ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತೊಂದು, ನಾವು ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕಾನ್ಶಿಯಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವವರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಕಲಿತೇವೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರಿಗೂ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪ್ರಚಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಇದು ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ತಗೊಂಡ ವಿಷಯ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Varsha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the class. So today's takeaway is like in anger, if we give something and if there is no good monarch, then everything the situation will become bad. That is what I have understood today, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Shankar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, in this purports, the takeaway is that the king, the ruler, he should be the representative of Krishna and to rule the country righteously. And as Maripan Prabhu told that this purports has been written long back is actually currently matching with the current situations also. So this I could see that everybody are rogues means previously when I was in Tamil Nadu, my friend was closely associated with the political parties. Morning they used to abuse each and everybody, but at the evening everybody mingle, and there is no thing. They are all very friends only. They like that only. So this is can't be avoided nowadays. But the thing is that we should expect for a very righteous king, like kind of ruler. So that is the only praise that we can have.
Yeah. Else, Ramesh Prabhu, are you okay to speak or no? Okay. So we'll end here. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow, same time.
Pranams, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Pranam.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna.